Number 1.
This story is 100% real and is about an experience I had going on the deep web. For those of you who don't know, the deep web is pretty much the hidden internet, and you need special software to go on it. It is several thousands times bigger than the surface internet, which can be reached by Google, Yahoo, etc. It is also home to many illegal things. You can buy stolen guns, any drug you can imagine, stolen phones, and can even hire a hitman. Any illegal thing you can imagine is on the deep web. I never had a great childhood. My dad was gone all the time, and my mom was too. When she was home, it was normally verbal and physical abuse. I always needed to have a way to escape it all, whether it was playing video games, watching movies, or even drinking. One day, I was invited over to a friend's house for a sleepover. When I got there, he immediately told me he had something to show me. We went upstairs and he showed me his laptop. He said he had gotten into the deep web. We stayed up till late that night browsing through all the interesting things on it. He showed me how to use it, and I took some notes. The next day, I decided to try it out for myself. I downloaded the software and was good to go. When on the deep web, there is a page full of links in order to go to sites. You keep clicking on the new links that pop up. At first, it was very boring. Tons of dead websites or disgusting ones filled with videos of real people getting killed. Eventually, I found a forum. I can't remember what it was about, but I asked how to get to any interesting sites that were not illegal. One guy sent me a link and said it was a site that contained leaked government documents. I thought that was pretty interesting, so I clicked on it. When I pulled up the page, I was pretty shocked. It was a whole bunch of videos of people getting tortured, raped, murdered in the most horrible of ways. I have a pretty strong stomach, so I was ready to ignore it and just exit out, but I realized that all the videos were playing at once. When I moved the mouse over one, there was no bar that let you pause or stop it. That's when it hit me. These were all thousands of live streams. I clicked on one that said homeless man kidnapped in my basement. In it, a man was tied to a chair, covered in blood. To his left was a table, and on it was a bunch of tools like axes, knives, drills, hammers, etc. And there was a hooded man standing by it. On the right of the live stream, there was a chat box, and people were requesting the hooded man to do various things like cut off the homeless man's hand, rip out his hair, etc. Eventually, one man in the chat box said that he would pay several Bitcoin for the hooded man to gouge out the homeless man's eyes. The hooded man agreed and grabbed what looked like a fork off the table and began to walk to the homeless man. I quickly closed the live stream, but I could still hear it. I tried to leave the site, but it was frozen, and I could only hear the horrible sounds coming from the stream. A few seconds later, the sound stopped, and a chat box appeared in the center of the screen. I couldn't exit out, but then in the box, somebody typed in, "Hello, how did you like the site?" I paused for a moment, not sure if it was some kind of automated message, but then he typed again, "Are you going to answer?" I stayed frozen in place, but eventually typed in, "Who is this?" The guy explained that he was the owner of the site, and that he liked to greet first-time users whenever he could. I got a disgusted look on my face, and this is where things got really scary. In the chat box, the man typed, "It's rude to make faces, Jake." My eyes got wide, and I noticed my webcam was on, when I always keep it off. Also, how did this man know my name? Covered up the webcam with a sticky note and typed, "How do you know my name? I'm calling the police." There was a brief pause, and then horrifyingly, a whole bunch of data was posted in the box. I looked at it and realized what it was. everything about me. My full name, email, address, age. It even had all my parents' info as well. I panicked and shut off my computer and hoped that it would be the end of that. I did a complete wipe of my computer's data and went to get a drink. I was under a lot of stress. That night, my mom said she wouldn't be home. She didn't say where she was, but at this point in my life, I didn't care. My dad, of course, was nowhere to be seen. I couldn't sleep, so I stayed up watching a movie. I fell asleep on the couch. I don't know why, but at about 2:30 in the morning, I woke up. The TV was still on, and it gave off a dim light. But when I opened my eyes a little more, I almost screamed. There was a man, standing just a few feet away from me, with a mask on. I flew off the couch and darted for the door. I heard heavy footsteps coming after me. I flung open the door and ran outside screaming as loud as I could, trying to get somebody's attention. I looked behind me and saw the man. He was running, and he was faster than me. I screamed louder and noticed I had tears running down my face. Then a bag wrapped around my head, and I was pushed to the ground with such force that I felt blood in my mouth. I heard a car speed up beside me, and I was being dragged to the sound of it. They were taking me away, and probably I was going to be on that site. I had almost accepted my death when the man with the mask screamed in pain and dropped me. I pulled the bag off my head and saw the van speed away, and I saw my neighbor hitting the masked man with a baseball bat. The police arrived, took the masked man in, and eventually caught the van and shut down the site. My mom and I moved out, and I will never, ever go on the deep web again, and I encourage others to never go on it either.
Number 2.
This story happened to my friend on the deep web. I had a pretty scary experience too, but mine was a few years ago. This story happened to my friend just 1 week ago. And for those of you who don't know, the deep web is pretty much the internet that isn't indexed by search engines like Yahoo, Google, Bing, etc. It can only be accessed by special software such as Tor. And to give you some context, this is the friend that showed me how to get on the deep web. He has always been really fascinated with it, but after my horror story experience with deep web hackers, he pretty much took a long break. He didn't resume using the deep web until about a year after my story, but he didn't tell anyone. He would buy stolen Apple products, drugs, etc. About a week or two ago, he was buying some cocaine. It wasn't from the seller he normally buys from, though, but it was really cheap, so he gave the seller his address and a fake email he used so they could stay in contact until the deal was done. He wasn't too worried. This guy seemed professional, and it was the same procedure for most of his purchases. My friend told him to ship it in a movie case or something that his mom wouldn't expect to have drugs in. This was probably his biggest mistake. He let the man know he was just a teenager. But my friend isn't the most careful of people either. A few days later, his mom walks in the house and hands my friend a movie that he ordered online. He took it and opened it up, but inside there wasn't any cocaine, just a piece of folded up paper. He opens it up and read, "There has been a problem. Email me for details." At the bottom, the man had left a new email for my friend to contact. My friend got on his email and asked the guy what the problem was. He responded, "Something has happened. If I were to send it to you, it could be traced back to me, and we would both be caught. Meet me at the elementary school at 7 p.m. We will just do it in person." The school wasn't too far away, so my friend told his mom he was staying the night at my house, and he headed off to meet the man. He called me and asked if I could be there with him, but I was really busy with my schoolwork, so I said I couldn't. I did tell him to take a knife or something, though, just in case things went wrong. When he got to the parking lot outside the school, he heard a car honking its horn. He saw it was a Jeep, but the plate had been covered up by duct tape. and the windows were tinted very dark. The man got out of his car and gave my friend the drugs, and my friend paid him. It seemed like everything went fine. My friend got in his car and sat there for a bit in order to call and tell me everything went fine. He noticed when he had hung up, the man was still there though. Why was he waiting? He didn't think too much of it and drove off. When he got to the first red light, he noticed that the man's car was right behind him. He was starting to get a little nervous, but kept driving. When he reached his neighborhood, the man was still following him, so he decided it would be a bad idea to lead him to his house. He instead turned into the next neighborhood and took a whole bunch of random turns, hoping to lose the man. Eventually, he no longer saw the car, so he pulled the car into his garage and called it a day. That night, he noticed the sound of a car engine. He looked out his window and saw the man's car parked in his driveway. He got wide-eyed and snuck downstairs and peered through the window. Inside the car, the man was smoking a cigarette, talking on the phone. But in the passenger seat, he also saw a second man. The second one was a lot more suspicious looking, even more so than the shady drug dealer man. This second one had messed up hair, a trashy shirt, and while it was hard to see, my friend could almost make out a scar from a massive burn on the side of his neck on his face. He kept watching the two men until the second man began to look at the window more and more often. Eventually, he was just staring at the window my friend was watching them from. My friend decided he had had enough and was going to call the cops. He didn't care if he would get in trouble at this point. He moved away from the window and called the police, who told him to grab a weapon or something to defend himself and wait for the police. He had waited for about 5 minutes when he saw a figure quietly come out of his mom's room, who was still sleeping. The man shut the door behind him and noticed my friend had seen him. The figure sprinted towards my friend with what looked like a knife raised in his hand. My friend grabbed a pot from a nearby table and threw it at the figure. It hit him in the face and shattered. The figure screamed and fell to the floor. My friend turned on the lights and saw the second man with the burn rolling on the floor. His face was covered in blood and shards of glass were sticking out. His right eye had tons of blood pouring out. He must have been hit pretty hard. As the man began to slowly get up, my friend grabbed a kitchen knife and drove it into the man's shoulder. Another scream could be heard by the man. The man began to stumble over to the front door when police sirens could be heard. Both men were caught on sight, but my friend's mom had been killed. Her throat had been slit and she had 23 stab wounds and duct tape covering her mouth. My friend was arrested, too, for drug possession, and his trial is coming up, but he lost his mom because of it, so I don't think he will be buying drugs from the deep web ever again. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today of the deep web stories. If you like, we could always do another video of deep web stories, so if you do like it, leave a comment below and let me know so I can get working on that. I just wanted to let everybody know I'm sorry about being MIA recently. We will be back in full swings with the videos, so you will see those uploaded on a regular basis. Thanks for sticking through it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you soon, and remember, be dreadful of things that happen in the night.